if I go to, and meet with the leadership team or executive team, it really about any manufacturing company, they have the same outcomes that they're trying to drive better. Those outcomes are around how do I create a less brittle, more, more adaptable supply chain.
Welcome to Decoded Dialogues, where tech talks and stories spark transformation. I'm your host, Crystal Fernandez, and joining me today is Tim Zuch, Group Vice President, Manufacturing, Oracle, a leader in Oracle's manufacturing strategy. And today, we're diving into what's driving growth in manufacturing as we head into 2026. And yes, we'll sprinkle in some holiday flavor too. Tim, thanks for joining us. Before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into manufacturing, and started working with Oracle.
Awesome. Crystal, thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to be part of the show and especially a holiday edition. So a little bit about me. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've always been in the Midwest. When I graduated from IU back in the early 90s, my first job was in the chemical industries. Back at that point in time, they called us smokestack chasers. So we didn't have the iPhones. We pulled out the old maps and we drove around looking for chemical companies to sell products to and ship products to. And I guess that was my first launch into the manufacturing space. But quickly realized chemicals wasn't the career I wanted to pursue and moved on to technology, selling AS400. So kind of the last part of that mainframe wave to
Yeah.
JD Edwards customers across the Midwest. And that was in the late 90s, pre Y2K, and really picked up an affinity for manufacturing companies. I love organizations that make stuff, that employ people, that serve our communities, that serve our customers by making things here in the U.S. And so I've had a passion for that since really I graduated from Indiana back in the early 90s and joined the tech space just prior to Y2K. So that's my background in manufacturing. It's been fantastic for me.
That's an amazing career so far. I love that. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. So, what go-to-market areas within manufacturing are driving the most growth and heading into 2026?
Sure, sure. So if I kind of go back, back to that time from, Y2K to today, I think, you look at this transformation over the years, first in manufacturing, first it was offshoring, it was, moving to cheap labor, it was moving closer to where, the supply chain impetus was, how people started. And, that's almost gone full circle where we're back to onshoring and supply chain visibility across a very complex global nature. At the same time, you had this advent of technology changing over these waves during that same period of time. So, when I look at what we're seeing and where we're seeing the most traction across the manufacturing segments, it's really all of them. So in my role, I cover durable and non-durable, automotive, building products, heavy equipment. So I have visibility to all of these areas of manufacturing, these companies that really drive the economy in the US. And they're all, facing some of the similar challenges and looking to great partners and technology to help solve some of those challenges, which has really been interesting. And I think we're at a unique place, a renaissance, where you have kind of this perfect intersection of, this transformation in manufacturing, moving back to an onshore model, moving back to employing people and employing technologies here in the US to drive great outcomes. And also the technology has reached a point where we're providing real value. So it's an exciting time. I can't say that there's one sector or one area that I see more of an opportunity than
Mm.
not. It's really across the boards because a lot of the same challenges as the macro has changed over time and over these last, I'll say, 8 to 10 years of moving manufacturing close to home, close to the US.
So, are you seeing that this is consistent globally as well, or are you seeing like there's regional differences, whether it's across the globe or it's here in the U.S.?
I don't, I think it's probably the Western Hemisphere type of scenarios. I think if you see, these trends in manufacturing, I think it impacts, Europe and the US more so than anywhere else in the country. And that's because we're trying to protect those assets, those things that are most important to us, right? To be able to be relevant and to be able to, to truly take these Western nations into the next generation. And I think that's really exciting. And technology is absolutely at the center and the core of that, whether it's supply chain, whether it's visibility, whether it's manufacturing efficiency. And of course, how do we take advantage of this incredibly rapid, next wave of technology being agentic or AI. And it's these organizations, these companies, the amazing like innovation that was at the heart of what this country was founded on back in the Industrial Revolution is just a reinvigoration. And I think it's a reinvigoration of bringing home manufacturing, but also the technology we can apply to it to truly drive the next generation of great companies. And I think you see that primarily in North America, US, but also in Canada, also across Europe, on how we're thinking about our supply chains and how we're thinking about building our economy for the next generation.
Fantastic. So, how do these go to market priorities align with Oracle's broader cloud strategy? I know you've gone through some shifts recently, and so I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, great question. When I did my, kind of introduction, I talked about, selling AS400s to JD Edwards customers. If I go back in history, and I think this is something we all want to think about and pack, this mainframe wave of technology when I first started in this technology space, was very interesting, automated a lot of process. Then we moved to that next wave of technology being this client server model. Let's put technology close to everybody. Client server quickly evolved into internet technology and the iPhone and having information at your fingertips. And then we had this big divide to SaaS, software as a service, and this was focused on applications. And there were some fantastic applications companies that kind of sprouted out of this SaaS model. But I think now we're back to technology, and that technology is based on a unified data model. It's based on the ability to drive agents and AI into applications. And it's the ability to quickly consume information, make decisions, augment decision making, and really drive efficiency. And, if I think about this new wave we're going into, this agentic wave, truly, only Oracle has the ability to serve our customers for this new and next wave of technology. And it starts with our infrastructure, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, the fastest growing hyperscaler in the globe right now. And we've truly built, a better mousetrap, better, faster, cheaper. It's our data platform with 23 AI, which is incredible. How do we put all this information in one single data platform to be able to interrogate it, to take advantage of agentic technology? And then on top, we've built a beautiful, pure, unified suite of applications. We call it the Fusion Suite of Applications that has AI services ingested. And if you think about Oracle, the ability to have that stack from the infrastructure to the platform to the Fusion layer, we
Yeah.
own all that. It is absolutely a tremendous differentiator. And I think probably the most important thing about me laying that out is we can solve these complex problems. We can solve these complex challenges. We can look at aligning to driving true value with built-in capabilities, as well as augmenting capabilities across that whole stack. And that's how we're differentiating as we go to market and serve our customers.
Um, I guess maybe we kind of covered this a little bit, but which manufacturing sectors are you seeing the most traction in right now?
Sure. I look at really durable and non-durable, and and I think those are probably the ones that are at the they're at the center or the epicenter of the most change because their supply chains are very fluid. So if you think about making a power tool or making a vacuum cleaner or making a dishwasher, you have gone through a scenario in the last, 6 years, 5 years of not being able to get any raw materials during the COVID times to, this amazing brittleness in the supply chain as companies have gone through and kind of reinvented and rethought their supply chain from COVID to, the tariff expectations, to changing consumer sentiment and expectations. You have all that layered in with, changing go to market, direct to consumer, B2B, obviously accelerating very fast, and then your brick and mortar. These durable goods companies who make stuff have really the complexity like I've never seen before. And that's when I think about, going back to Oracle having, all three layers of the stack, the infrastructure, the platform, the applications. This is where we can solve and truly drive tremendous value for these organizations, whether it's the ideation of building or creating and launching a new product with, product lifecycle management to that bill of materials to seeing the supply chain impact of that. They just have constant change in front of them and, speed wins in that space. I would say we're seeing traction across all of these manufacturing areas, but that seems to be the most complex one right now. And they've also had the most variables going
Right.
into their supply chain, their consumer changes, along with this global network of, tariffs and other things that are impacting their business so dramatically. So that's where I see, the ability to solve these complex problems really, really puts us in a position to shine and drive differentiated value, us being Oracle as a company.
Yeah, so we've talked about this quite a bit on several episodes now about the tariffs and how, it's causing some maybe a little bit of unrest right in the marketplace, right? So is this traction that you see in this area, is it linked to, would you say, digital transformation? Is it specific to the economic trends that we're seeing, obviously associated with tariffs, things like that? Like, are we seeing like ways around this?
Great question. And I'm gonna maybe unpack it one by one or answer all
Okay.
of the above.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay.
It's, uncertainty is probably, I look at tariffs as, as one driver, one causal in a very complex supply chain, right? And I think uncertainty in this, like, I'll call it the global unrest that I believe we're probably going to face for generations now,
Sure.
whether we want to or not. I think it's probably
Right.
reality. So, when I think of the digital supply chain, digitization, I think of tariffs or the uncertainty that we see across this global supply chain. I think of macro issues that I think will be here for generations, or maybe not, but I think the tea leaves are reading that we probably have some macro changes going on for a very long time. I think the theme is whether, regardless of any of those, it's having the ability to respond to the current situation, react and plan for it quickly. And I think that's the the underpinnings of everything. So when I look at, specific economic trends of reshoring and unpredictability and rising cost, that's something that I hear across, all these segments of manufacturing. And when I hear that, and when I think about that and what our customers are asking us for is how can Oracle as a partner give us visibility to this, these constant changes, and then help us anticipate, help us build in buffer, help us build in alternate supply chain routes, help us understand what our supply chains look like, help us with constrained capacity, all the way down to flexible labor models. When I, and you'll probably, Decoded, you'll hear me repeat this a couple of times, but this, having this unified data model across your suite of applications, from procurement to sourcing to supply chain to fulfillment to human capital management to shipping, having that single visibility is really the differentiator. And you'll probably hear me, in some of the coming questions you asked, kind of layer in why that's a differentiator for Oracle and what that means.
Yeah, no, I think it's integral that it's all tied together and that you can see the big picture rather than having a lot of disparate systems trying to tell you what's going on. I think you're right. I think Oracle is certainly driving a change that is much needed in the marketplace. Any surprises compared to last year? I would say even like the last 5 years since COVID, right? Anything like, "Oh, wow, that was we weren't anticipating that."
Yeah, I think, by far and away the biggest surprise. I participate and sit on the Manufacturing Leadership Council. And it's a group of some of the leading manufacturers globally, but that are US based organizations, some of the most important manufacturing companies in the globe. And the difference between last year and this year, and I was actually shocked, I'm still shocked, is how many of these manufacturing companies are truly either adopting AI or looking to adopt AI as their top priority, right? And for a whole lot of different reasons. AI November of 2022 is when, Gen AI was first introduced by OpenAI and ChatGPT. Manufacturing companies have always kind of, I'll say, whether it's true or not true, have been considered a little bit of the laggards when it comes to technology, using air quotes laggards. And right now, if you look at all of those challenges that we talked about in that last question, those specific trends, they're looking to, generative AI or agentic AI to help provide that visibility and solve those problems. I truly am shocked, surprised, shocked, whatever we want to use, how quickly they have come and how advanced a lot of these organizations are already getting, using agentic capabilities to help drive that visibility and plan for the disruptive nature that they have to plan for every single day. So that's been my big surprise of the year.
We do keep hearing about how, particularly in the manufacturing and supply chain space, that there's fear, right, with AI. But I'm happy to hear that you're seeing a trend in the up, that people are starting to engage it and embrace it. That is definitely what we need to see and hear. I think it's going to help drive business.
It is. And Crystal, I think there's this like misnomer, or maybe an assumption that's a false assumption that, companies or manufacturing companies are looking at AI to replace human capital. That's absolutely not been the case. They're looking at AI to help unlock their human capital, to create more value, to better serve their customers, to build product faster, to fulfill inventory faster, to create raw materials faster, to introduce new products faster. There's very much a shortage of manufacturing resources across this country, and that continues to grow. So AI is allowing and unlocking the human potential we have. It's not replacing, and I think that's also really, really important to point out. And when you look at Oracle's AI strategy of building in AI capabilities directly into the business process, I mean, it just fits so well. It's so accretive to these manufacturing companies, the way we've tackled this challenge with the Oracle suite of applications, that it's truly amazing how we're able to serve these organizations to help unlock that human potential.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is absolutely allowing people to be more present in their jobs and do what they're actually hired to do rather than do the mundane activities that they weren't. What is the catalyst then for client conversations within manufacturing right now? Is it supply chain? Is it AI? Is it product hub? What are you seeing from an engagement standpoint?
Um, I'm gonna maybe take that a different direction, and then I'll answer your question if that's okay.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
um,
totally fine.
with this rapidly changing kind of world of technology and this renaissance of manufacturing and the continuously rapid evolution of AI, we've had to rebuild how we go to market and serve our customers. And what I mean by that, if you look back to a couple waves ago, that client server wave or that mainframe wave, even the SaaS wave, it was very linear in fashion where, we would go to a customer and we would try and solve a problem. We would sell them something and then we would come back, a year later, 2 years later, 6 months later, whatever that is after they adopted it, and try and sell them more. Like, so I would call it a linear fashion. And now how Oracle and how we're building our teams is much more circular in nature. I like to call it the virtuous cycle of growth, where we're constantly working with our customers, where we're trying to help customers enable the capabilities that are inherent in our suite of applications, turn those on, drive value, and then solve the next problem. So we've evolved as a company, or we're evolving as a company, really how technology is evolving to be problem finders and then problem solvers. So, if I go to, and meet with the leadership team or executive team, and really about any manufacturing company, they have the same outcomes that they're trying to drive better results for, and those outcomes are around how do I create a less brittle, more, more adaptable supply chain? How do I launch products faster and, utilize Oracle's products hub to have all of my product data in one place? I recently was at a manufacturing company that bought the same part from 8 different suppliers because they didn't have a product hub. And, so when it came time to engineer a new solution that they created this, engineering bomb for, and then moved it to a manufacturing bomb, it took them months and months and months to do so. We were able to write an agent within the Fusion suite of applications and use that agent to map that engineering bomb to the manufacturing bomb in 1 week, and it did 6 months of work in 6 minutes. And so I always, like, I'll say, hesitate to go look for one catalyst. The catalyst we're looking for is, what are your problems? And then how do
Hmm.
we go and solve those problems, right? And then we look at that suite of applications to do it. But, to your point, supply chain is tremendously important right now. Product data hub and product lifecycle management, tremendously important. Global order promising, the ability to predict and to fulfill their customers' orders is incredible. And that's a topic of conversation. But a lot of it is speed. Speed and visibility is really the top two, and it can apply to a whole lot of different areas to start. As long as we're doing our jobs and serving our customers and having those outcome-based conversations, I see that we're earning business and growing our market share and doing a better job of being more relevant. And then in return, they want to spend more time with us as a strategic partner. It's really
Well,
powerful.
Oracle has certainly shown that they're a shining star right now. They are definitely proving their value and worth in the marketplace for sure. So, with that said, what other strategies are helping Oracle gain traction in manufacturing?
Yeah, I think I hate to say it, but I think we're a little bit of that best kept secret. I mean, our strategies has to be, and this is part of our transformation as a company. We have to meet our customers where they're at. And that means we have to align our sales teams to be able to spend time understanding customers' needs, their unique set of needs in this broader theme of manufacturing. So if I look at our strategies we're employing to do that, I'm gonna kind of go across three pillars. One pillar is we have to be relevant. We have to participate in things like the Manufacturing Leadership Council. We have to go out and educate people on, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why it's unique. And that's truly just getting out and talking to those leaders and sharing where we're having great successes of implementing a single platform across an entire suite of applications to provide better visibility and better outcomes. And whether it's a windows and doors manufacturer, or whether it's a tools manufacturer, whether it's a building products manufacturer, an automotive manufacturer, we have success stories in those areas. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is we have to extend the applications and partner with companies like Proficient, to have very, very knowledgeable, very specific industry expertise, right? The ability to go out and
Yeah.
solve those deep problems, either within an industry or within a pillar. And that's where we rely on our ecosystem to help extend us to be very industry relevant. And Proficient does a fantastic job with that. We're grateful for you as a partner, but that's where we think about meet our customers where they're at, bring the subject matter expertise in, either from Oracle or from our ecosystem. So that's the second pillar. And then the third pillar, and this is the one that I think is just really the biggest differentiator between Oracle and every other applications company in the globe, is having that infrastructure layer, data platform layer, and Fusion application layer. We're vertically integrated, horizontally complete. We're the only ones in the world who can offer that, and that allows us to innovate very, very fast. I can go to a company that we hadn't talked to for a year, and a year ago we couldn't solve their challenges, I'll say, in the way of process manufacturing.
Yeah.
You know, um, or we'll use process or mixed mode manufacturing. A year later, we've delivered all of those capabilities, all of that functionality in that rapid of a time frame. So having that stack allows us to innovate incredibly fast. And now that we're adding fuel to that stack with the use of
Yeah.
AI and agentic, it's truly amazing. We're writing code now using agents, plugging into Apex and writing that Fusion code right now. It's truly amazing how fast we're innovating. So if I think of those three pillars, it's industry knowledge, education, it's partnering and bringing the right resources through expanding our ecosystem to drive industry specific solutions. And then this constant innovation that only Oracle can do, having all three layers of the stack, the infrastructure, the platform, and the application layer with Fusion. There's no better time. I couldn't be more excited for the opportunity we have and the customer base we're trying to serve and working so hard to serve, because we can bring real value.
Yeah, absolutely. We've touched on this a few times now during our conversation, but I want to dig into this a little bit. How is AI changing the manufacturing landscape?
Um, and very specifically, it's moving from taking information in a reactive type of nature and proactively being able to identify what potential challenges are, whether it's demand sensing, whether it's, building buffers, whether it's understanding where I need more human capital within a certain process, whether it's projecting what my demand is going to be based on my consumption on the other side of demand, or whether it's as simple as, identifying weather patterns and rerouting the ability to fulfill an order where it's needed. If you go back even 6 to 8 months from now, or yeah, 6 to 8 months prior to now, most of those things were happening react. Now having that single data source, we're looking at all that and projecting and proactively providing those types of scenario-based planning, scenario-based shipping, scenario-based demand sensing, scenario-based constraint sensing,
Hmm.
scenario-based transportation visibility. Where, I'll just give one example after I finish, but that's where AI is really making a huge difference. We had one of the industry leaders and largest producers of underground drainage pipe just finish a project with us that they deployed in about 9 months. And that project increased their ability to deliver product from about an 82% to about a 92% fulfill rate with their global order promising. And that is looking at all kinds of factors, building an AI agent to go and do that. And that's just really, really powerful. So those are like the big ones. But then if you just look at things as simple as is generative AI to do narrative reporting, take the numbers and put
Sure.
it into a consumable fashion. Just doing your HR talent and performance reviews, which I just finished at the
Yeah.
end of every quarter or every period or every year, to be able to take all that information of what that employee, that person, that associate, that really valuable human asset we have, and be able to look at all that information. The narratives kind of gives you the playbook of what all they've done, and then I can apply what I see from a subjective standpoint on top. So I mean,
Sure.
it cuts across the board, and the efficiencies are just tremendous, almost too big to even measure. I mean, it's just an entirely new way of thinking about business and conducting business. It's really powerful.
How would you say how would you say that these all of these catalysts are shaping the investment priorities of your customers, your future customers?
Well, I'll go back to kind of meeting our customers where they're at. I shared earlier about, you asked me a great question of like, what was my biggest surprise if I go back a year, maybe 5 years, and I shared that my
Yeah,
biggest surprise was this AI trend. Customers are looking to drive an impact as quickly as possible. So time to value is at the forefront of almost every conversation. In large scale ERP transformations, although they're getting less risk, they're becoming more accretive. We're able to provide, I'll call value drops over a period of time on these transformations. Um, those sometimes don't meet the needs of the business right now. So, the unique thing that I think, Oracle can provide in what's shaping these investment cycles, and it's consistent. More, how quickly can you make a positive impact for our business? Is
yeah,
we're able to go in and deploy in a composable matter or a SKU-based matter where we can drive immediate impact. I highlighted that global order promising scenario.
right.
This is a company that's sitting on client server technology they deployed 20 years ago. They were able to take one piece of their business, deploy it on the modern Fusion stack, apply agentic AI to it, and drive immediate values. You know, it's the priorities of the boardroom are different across our customers and different across the industries. The important thing is we meet them where they're at and then solve those problems. The single priority I see almost ubiquitously across all C-suites is how quickly can we drive these outcomes, right? And if we're not out there educating our customers on how to do it, the other way of driving agentic outcomes is taking your data, putting it into an outside database data stack, and then trying to write your own AI across the top. We don't think that's a great strategy. Matter of fact,
No.
we've seen some articles say that it's a failed strategy. So sometimes this um, need to drive immediate value is giving customers a reason to go and try this because they can seemingly do it faster. We don't think that's the right approach. There's been a lot of studies, a recent one that has said that a lot of those projects, 85-90% of them failed.
Yeah,
Yeah, time to value is so critical right now that I think that's the number one conversation we're having in a boardroom. Time to value, and the second one is risk.
that's
Risk and predictable outcomes is right behind it.
yeah. We've heard a lot of that ourselves. Do you think customers are leaning more towards resilience or innovation?
Ooh, I have to choose one of the two. Uh, yeah, it's the world is moving so fast right now that I think innovation's ultimately going to win.
Yeah,
Right. I think
yeah.
innovation's ultimately going to win.
I tend to
And I'm gonna
agree.
I'm gonna add a third one in there, and the third one in there is when you innovate, there's this absolute sense of sustainability and ESG that we're not just innovating to create new products, but we're innovating to create a more circular supply chain. We're innovating to drive, a a more, you know, less waste, greater outcome type of scenario for consumers and for the entire manufacturing process. So I think if you innovate the right way, that supply chain will become more resilient if you keep sustainability at the core. So I think there is a tie in there. I don't know if I would choose one or the other, but trying to drive a resilient supply chain around a product that needs improved or an outcome that needs improved because it's not meeting the sustainability metrics or goals that
Right.
everybody expects today, you're kind of solving the wrong problem. If you innovate to build sustainable, then that innovation goes all the way back through a resilient supply chain. And again, yeah, I'm a broken record, but only you accomplish that if you look at having a unified data set from innovation back to supply chain, which is Oracle's unique advantage in the marketplace.
So, since you brought up supply chain, let's talk about that a little bit. What aspects of supply chain management are customers most focused on right now? For example, procurement, maybe? Where else?
I mean, I think procurement is absolutely important. Like, how do I source? And when we think about tariffs, multi-sourcing, the
Yeah.
ability to understand that, I think that's absolutely critical. I think this whole idea of decision intelligence, moving from taking information off of maybe, your MES system to, in a very binary way and reacting, you're doing almost sensing and agentic sensing to have decision intelligence and augmented where we're kind of predicting what's going to happen in the future, predicting what's going to happen, almost with this like ambient invisible intelligence. Like, one of our newer products that we've rolled out in Fusion or capabilities is around our manufacturing smart hub where we're just and consuming information from not just IoT, you know, and MES systems, but all systems to try and provide this, real-time intelligence or this invisible intelligence where we can apply AI to and then help companies make better decisions. So you have procurement, you have visibility into your manufacturing lines. Sustainability and ESG become central to I think every decision, like I just shared. I think
Right.
that's so important. But just recently, one of our most recent in our one of our most recent releases, our transportation management solution. We're projecting your carbon footprint based on your shipments and
Right.
feeding that directly into your ESG reporting, where before you had to go and do that all manually. And so, not only are we capturing it like we have been doing, but we're projecting it so you can see
Wow.
the impact, which is really important, I think, across the supply chain.
Absolutely.
Nearshoring, absolutely critical. I was just working with a tier one automotive manufacturing company that does, some light duty assembly. And they just, in 6 months, they opened their facility up in Houston. They're assembling here in the US. They deployed Fusion for ERP and manufacturing management. Um, and their risk takeout by onshoring has been tremendous. They control their own destiny. They're not um, immune, they're immune to the tariffs now because of that. So I think that
Right.
risk management and nearshoring is important. And then, probably the last one, if you get too deep in any one of these areas, I'll quickly get over my skis. We have some great experts, Crystal, on supply chain and all these things. But the last one I touched on earlier is labor. I mean, just the entire labor, like
Yeah.
we have manufacturing companies have to do more with what they have today, because right now manufacturing companies can't fill those jobs. I think I recently read that we're on pace to have about a 2 million person deficit by 2030 for
Wow.
manufacturing jobs. Whether it's human capital, whether it's supply chain risk mitigation, sustainability, visibility or invisible intelligence by connecting into MES or IoT, or, just adding agentic to your supply chain so you can start projecting where things are. I think all those are just top of mind. I don't know if one's more so than the other,
Yeah.
uh, but they're all somewhat related when we think about solving these big challenging problems.
You've brought up sustainability a few times, so I have to ask because I've asked my other guests the same question. Um, are sustainability and compliance becoming bigger priorities for manufacturing?
Um, I don't know if I would say a bigger priority. I think it's fundamental to the existence of manufacturing companies today. It's a right to survive.
Sure.
So if an organization isn't putting sustainability and compliance at the core of all their decisions, they likely aren't going to exist. So, I think it's, priorities. You have this fundamental thing at the bottom, what you build your
True.
business on, your foundation. And most of the organizations I work with today, sustainability is part of their foundation of everything they do. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. And I don't think it should. And I think it has to be fundamental if you're going to continue to serve customers based on the supply chain restraints, the expectations of the consumers, the expectations of the economy, the expectations of society, and the communities that you work and employ people in. Sustainability.
Right.
So it's got to be a core fundamental. Should
I
never be a
agree.
priority. It should be fundamental to everything everyone does, and it's fundamental to Oracle and fundamental to how we build and deliver our Fusion suite of applications. Sustainability, ESG is part of everything we do, allowing companies to drive and maximize their ability to drive and meet their goals.
So it's 100% foundational for Oracle.
Yes, absolutely.
As promised, the holiday tie-in.
The holiday time.
As we head into the holiday season, supply chains are under pressure, obviously. Any advice for manufacturers to stay agile during this peak demand season?
Well, it's hard to believe we're already to the holidays. Next week being
Yeah.
Thanksgiving as we record this show. So, and as
Yep.
I think it comes out. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm uber conservative, right, by nature. And I think this is the area where you need to look at you know building the buffers for your most important inventory or high velocity components. I think transportation visibility is absolutely critical. Thank goodness the government's reopened. I think of it selfishly from transportation as I sat on the tarmac for 6 hours on Monday.
Right.
But there's so many things that are out of our control. I think, strengthen your short-term demand sensing, plan for flexible labor models, build your strategic buffers, assuming you have the ability to see your entire supply chain and can build those strategic buffers, and then prioritize your transportation visibility. I think, most importantly, I want all of my customers that we serve not to have to work on Thanksgiving Day, weekends, or Christmas days and holidays because
Right.
the supply chain glitch or outage or something of that nature. And that would be the advice I would give to those incredibly important people who are receiving, building, procuring, making, and shipping product that everybody else is depending on in our supply chain. So I don't know if that's a great answer, but I think it's probably the only one I have given of where we're sitting. So build those buffers, prioritize your transportation, use some flexible labor models, and make sure you have identified where you may have constraints in your capacity.
Okay. One more holiday question.
All right, I love
Because
it.
and because we've been talking about AI. So how can Oracle's AI-driven supply chain insights help businesses stay agile during seasonal fluctuations?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I'll triple and quadruple down. When you have the Oracle Fusion suite of applications, you have a unified data model, and when you have a unified data model, think of it as an assistant that is going to be able to look across all of those different capabilities and functions and be able to serve you the ability to make better decisions via recommendations based on everything that's available and it's in across that whole stack of capabilities. And
Sure.
so I would say turn it on if you're an existing Oracle customer. There's no cost. There's very little overhead. It's available
Right.
today. If you're using or thinking about using more of the Oracle stack, let us meet you where you're at and let us educate you on how we can help solve some of these challenges you may be having as we continue in this uncertain world. I don't know if that solves anything for this holiday season, but I certainly think it does in the future. And just grateful for that opportunity to serve our customers, partner with our great partners to go out and solve problems for these most important companies in the globe. So
Perfect. Something great to think about. Tim, where can our listeners learn more about Oracle's manufacturing solutions as well as reach out to you?
sure, sure. So I think easiest is go out to Oracle's website, and we have industry specific pages. If you just simply search on them, you will get more than what you probably can consume. The second one is let us serve you, and I can be reached at tim.zuch, Z-U-C-H, at oracle.com, or Tim Zuch on LinkedIn. There's only one of me out there. I've been in this industry for 28 years now. I've been incredibly fortunate and blessed by serving customers and building teams to serve our customers to help solve problems and deliver to our commitments. So would be humbled and grateful just to reach out directly, and I'll make sure that we have the right resourcing, the right solutions. We're very respectful of your time, and we come to meet you where you're at and solve challenges. I don't think there's any better time for Oracle to go and solve those big challenges. So that would be the two
Amazing.
areas that I would reach me directly or on LinkedIn.
That's perfect. We will link that into the show notes. So, Tim, thanks for sharing these insights. It's been very, very educational and informative. We love that. We've covered everything from Oracle's manufacturing's role in streamlining operations to how AI is shaping the future. So, what stood out for you today? For me, it was witnessing how innovation intersects with the human experience. When we embrace technology, it can genuinely improve our lives and make our jobs easier. Thank you for listening to Decoded Dialogues. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your network, and we would love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to leave a comment or connect with us on social media channels. And until next time, happy holidays and keep decoding the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Happy holidays.